Hello and welcome back to the MARKIE channel, hope you're all doing well. Now, before we do actually get into the situation, the topic that I wanted to speak about in today's video, I do just want to give the usual stuff that I say at the beginning of the videos, all my socials linked in the description, Instagram and Twitter and stuff, and my new channel as well, Offbeat with my friends, is also linked in the description, and we've got a new video on there that's literally getting uploaded the exact same time as this video, so if you want to watch that after this, you can, and let me know how you feel about it. Is it good, bad? Let me know. Now, actually getting to the topic of this video, it's not going to be my standard, like, topics video, where we start off with, like, smaller topics and work our way up to the bigger stuff, okay? This is just going to be one situation I want to speak about in this video because it didn't really feel right to kind of put this in a topics video. Like, I can't just be sat there and be like, oh yeah, Tana Mojo called someone a dickhead on Twitter and then go to this topic. It just really wouldn't work, and I feel like, if anything, it'd be a little bit disrespectful, okay? So what I thought we should do is, if we are going to talk about this, which I know a lot of you want me to speak about this, okay? The last video I uploaded, there was a bunch of comments. I was just scrolling down. Every few comments was, talk about the Gus Johnson situation, talk about the Gus Johnson situation, talk about the Gus Johnson situation. And I didn't know what that meant, okay? I was like, what do you mean the Gus Johnson situation? He's a guy who does like 30-second videos, someone who I thought was actually quite funny. How could there be a situation? Now, obviously, looking into it, I realized there is a situation. It's one of the most serious situations I've seen on YouTube, okay? And that's why I feel like I need to kind of come at this video in the right way, and that's exactly why I've written down a bunch of notes on my screen. So if you ever see me looking towards my right and cross-referencing something, it's because I'm reading my notes. I don't want to miss anything out. I don't want to say anything wrong, okay? So that's the whole reason behind that. Now, before we actually do get into the specifics of the situation, I do want to give a bit of a trigger warning, okay? We're going to be talking about abortion and many other things in this video, so if that is something that triggers you, then maybe this isn't a video for you, okay? Right. With that being said, let's actually get into what is going on here, okay? Now, when I got told about this situation, obviously the natural thing is to kind of look into it, see what's happened. And I came across this video, okay? It's by Sabrina Abelina. I hope I'm pronouncing that right. I'm sorry if I'm not. I believe Sabrina's the first name, even though it's the other way around here. And it's a video called My Pregnancy, okay? Now, this is actually Gus Johnson. If you don't know who Gus Johnson is another influencer, posts like funny videos. It's been around for a long time, I feel like, as well. This is Gus Johnson's ex-girlfriend from a couple of years ago. Gus Johnson doesn't actually get, like, named in this video. He just gets referred to as, like, boyfriend or ex-boyfriend. But whenever that is said, you know we're talking about Gus Johnson, okay? Now, unfortunately, this isn't, like, your standard, like, pregnancy video, okay? It's not really a celebration or anything like that. This is actually a video where Sabrina talks about having an ectopic pregnancy a few years ago, which is where the egg implants itself outside the womb, I believe. I'm not a doctor, but Sabrina goes on to explain in this video that during this pregnancy, she could have died, and she actually kind of came very close to dying from this, and it's a very serious situation, hence the trigger warning, okay? But yeah, right, let's start from the beginning and let me try and explain this best way I can. Now, the thing I feel like would be a good place to start on is this sentence that Sabrina actually opens up this video with to kind of give an idea of the severity of this situation.
A certain number of years ago, I was in the hospital dying. It was the worst experience of my entire life, and I don't recommend it.
So, as you can hear, it's a very serious situation. Obviously, I kind of already referenced out the fact that she could have died. It is that serious, okay? That this is actually something that could have really, really went wrong. And thank God it didn't, okay? Thankfully it didn't. That's the main thing here. But Sabrina starts off this video by saying that she actually fell pregnant with Gus's child. Now, at the time, Gus and Sabrina had had conversations saying that they didn't want to have kids, and then if they did somehow, like, get pregnant, then they would abort the kid, okay? Which is a conversation that a lot of, like, adults have when they're going to be obviously sleeping with each other. Things like that can happen, and people do speak about what they would do in that situation. Now, the only problem is with this is that these weren't the normal kind of conversations, okay? Sabrina then goes on in the video to talk about how Gus has actually said things like, if we were to get a child and you didn't abort the child, I would break up with you. Now, at the beginning of this video, when Sabrina's talking about this pregnancy, she shows a bunch of records to show that she'd been to the hospital on many occasions and had every intention of going into this and getting an abortion.
If I didn't. And I'm reiterating over and over, I mean, look at my appointments. This was always what I was going to do. I was constantly taking the steps to end the pregnancy.
And one thing that's also worth noting throughout this, you can see the pain in Sabrina's eyes throughout this video, and it's like literally heartbreaking, okay? It's heartbreaking to see. And the reason I bring this up is because that when I saw Gus's response, which we will get towards the end of the video, when I saw the response, there's a bunch of comments, like, basically saying, like, Sabrina's doing this for, like, views or money because the video's sponsored and whatnot, which Sabrina actually talks about in the comments of this video, okay? You can see in the actual pinned comment here, it says, "I'm sorry this video was sponsored. I lost my home and car in a matter of a day. Thanks for understanding," okay? This is not like a sponsor be like, "Oh, this video would bang, let's put a sponsor on it." This is because Sabrina has to pay for, like, medical bills, has to pay for a home, car, everything, okay? It's got nothing to do with that, and I feel like if that is someone's first response after hearing this video, it's not the one, okay? You probably should take a hard, long look at yourself if that's your first response to this video. But Sabrina then goes on to talk about how Gus wouldn't even give her a choice in the abortion like we referenced before.
Can we just consider, like, what if we didn't do it? Still gonna do it, but can we just consider what would happen if I didn't? And he would say, like, no, it's not even a question. You're gonna ruin my life if you do that. That would be the worst thing to ever happen to me. As along the lines of things that he would say. And at one point, he even said that he would break up with me if I didn't do it.
Yeah, as you can see, it's disgusting, okay? Especially with something as serious as, first of all, a pregnancy. Second of all, having thoughts and discussing the fact of ending the pregnancy. Like, it's such an emotional time, and to not give your 100% support in that situation is wrong in itself, but to just do the polar opposite and say things like, "Oh, you're going to ruin my life," and be selfish about it, it's awful, okay? This is a situation that Sabrina was struggling with so much at the time that she didn't tell anyone. The only people who knew was one of her friends, that she says, and Gus, okay? She didn't tell her parents. She didn't even tell her parents when she ended up having life-threatening surgery, which we will get into later in the video, okay? She said she was at the hospital for something else. Like, this is just something that she wouldn't even tell people, and one of the only people, or one of the two people being told about here, is so negative towards it and so selfish. It couldn't have been a pleasant situation in the slightest, okay? And that's a big under-exaggeration. Then a couple minutes later in the video, okay, Sabrina talks about how she started getting these, like, sharp pains, and the hospitals just weren't really helpful in the slightest.
Seriously? And then one morning, I woke up at about 4 a.m. to the most intense pain I've ever felt in my life in my lower left abdomen. And it was so sharp and painful. I went to the bathroom because, you know, all of a sudden I'm bleeding a lot, which can't be normal. And I couldn't even stand up because the pain was just so intense. I went to the doctor multiple times. And one of the first times I went, the lady was just like, "Well, just take some Tylenol and go home. What do you want me to do?" And then I went again later.
Yeah, so as you can see, okay, the healthcare system in America, which isn't exactly like a myth in the first place. Like, I feel like it's pretty well known that the healthcare system in America isn't good at the best of times. But just listening to that, and then obviously in hindsight knowing what was actually happening in that situation, it's absolutely fucking mental that people can be so nonchalant and not really care and just, like, put it down to something, like, way smaller than the reality of the situation. Just be like, "No, you're fine, okay, you can deal with it, have a few tablets, you'll be fine," when something very serious is happening. In fact, her life was being threatened, okay? So, obviously, that part of the story has nothing to do with Gus, but it just highlights how bad, the healthcare system in America actually is, okay? Now, later on in the video, this pain actually gets worse, okay? Bear in mind, this is after Sabrina's been to the hospital, being told, like, "Oh, no, it's fine, okay, have these tablets, you'll be fine." The situation's got worse, and one day when Sabrina's at work, she feels a pain that's even stronger and has to go to the hospital. Now, obviously, in this situation, bear in mind, this is a pregnant woman, still with the boyfriend, Gus, at the time. She rings her boyfriend and be like, "Right, I'm going to the hospital." Now, obviously, naturally, you would feel like the boyfriend would be like, "Right, I'm obviously coming to the hospital with you so I can care for you and support you." Gus decided that he was too busy and decided to go to a restaurant and have a few drinks instead, you know?
I called my boyfriend and I told him, "Something's wrong. I'm going to the hospital again. I don't feel well. Something is wrong." And he said, "Okay, well, I have work to do and it involves other people, and then we're going to go out and get dinner and drinks with them."
Do you know what else also involves other people? Your girlfriend and your potential child. Obviously, they're talking about getting aborted and, like, ending the pregnancy. But your girlfriend is pregnant right now and is having a bunch of pains. And it's not exactly a myth and it's not exactly a secret that pregnancies can go wrong. Surely you'd want to support your girlfriend at that time and not be like, "Look, I've got to go for a few drinks instead." Obviously, I don't need to tell you that that is just disgusting, okay? Obviously, you go to the hospital with your girlfriend and support them through it, okay? I don't need to say that. That's just obvious, okay? Like, no one watching this video is that stupid, I would like to think. Now, going further into this video, Sabrina talks about how she actually finally got a proper ultrasound, okay? This is, like, the actual... bear in mind... Obviously, I don't know the ins and outs of this, but to the best of my knowledge, there are the different types of ultrasounds. There's the ultrasounds where you can have, like, something rubbed on your belly and you can see the baby and whatnot. There's ones that are obviously a lot more high-tech and a lot more accurate that actually go inside you and look inside your body, and then you can see a lot more. This was when Sabrina was finally getting this, okay? Now, when this was happening, Sabrina talks about how the ultrasound techs were looking at each other and talking to each other, like, very confused, but obviously they're not allowed to say anything to Sabrina yet. The doctor has to say something to Sabrina, so Sabrina just sat there like, what the fuck is going wrong? And then she found out what actually happened, and I've written it down here, because I just wouldn't be able to remember every single point, but let me read these out to you, and you can kind of get a gist of how serious this actually was, okay? Now, this time, Sabrina found out she had an ectopic pregnancy, which we obviously mentioned at the beginning of the video. This is the first time that she's actually found out this news herself. Her left fallopian tube had ruptured 5 days prior to this. She was bleeding internally. The doctors were surprised she wasn't dead and needed instant surgery or she will die, and even during the surgery, there was a chance she could die, okay? That's how serious the situation was, and Gus decided to go for a few drinks instead and do some work-related business instead, okay? Obviously not the right thing to do. I don't need to say that. And even after all this, to this day, if Sabrina gets pregnant, there's a high chance it can happen again. So it's not even something that is over now. The situation technically isn't over. Now, thank God Sabrina's feeling a lot better now, okay, physically. But obviously, there's a lot of trauma that goes with this as well. And there's also the thing in the back of my mind that this could possibly happen again. This is obviously a very traumatic situation, okay? But going back to the night when Sabrina found this out, she left the hospital at 3 a.m. non-consensually. Obviously, she's on loads of different types of like medication or whatnot. It seemed a bit weird to me. Now, obviously, I'm not a doctor, so I don't know the ins and outs of this, if this is the normal protocol, but to be let go on the same night of something so severe happening seems a bit mental to me, to be honest, but she did have to leave the hospital. She went in Gus's car. At this point, Gus has had his like restaurant drinks or whatever. He came over, he's picked Sabrina up, and they've went back, okay? And at this point, Sabrina still hasn't told anyone. Even at the hospital, she rang her mum and told it was something completely different and had nothing to do with her pregnancy. Also spoke to more other people who were like, oh, what, you're at the hospital? What, you're pregnant? Doesn't say anything, okay? She just didn't want to tell anyone. Now, after this all happened, obviously, she just had life-threatening surgery. She's not going to feel the best physically or mentally, and she could probably do with someone looking after her, okay? But Sabrina then goes on to explain that very quickly, Gus was getting sick of her.
Just being thrown into that feeling of what it felt to be just dying all over again at random. I had no control over it. And the only person I could really lean on was my boyfriend, because I couldn't tell anybody. And I don't fully blame him, because that is a lot of responsibility to put on a single person. But he started to get real sick of me. I couldn't sleep by myself for the longest time, so I was over at his place, and I'm sure his roommates, love that. But I was just broken for a really long time. I was trying to put myself through therapy. I would try to take myself to the doctor whenever, stuff would spike, and it was just the worst. And boyfriend started to resent me. And so I tried bottling it up even more and not telling him until I was absolutely certain that I needed to go to the doctor, and I would not be able to drive myself. Like, if I try really hard to be independent, but sometimes I just can't. And those were the moments.
So you can see right there, like, how much this is still affecting Sabrina to this day. And the fact that he was trying to put it on her and being selfish again. Obviously, you can see exactly why so many people have turned on Gus in the past couple of days. And when I actually say so many people have, it feels like to me, and this is probably wrong when you actually add the numbers up, but it feels like the majority are still kind of just okay with him, especially if we look at his response. Like, there's not really anything negative in the responses, okay, in any of the replies to Gus's response, which is fucking a bit mind-blowing, to be honest. But you can see how serious this situation actually is once you actually watch this video. I feel like a lot of people who probably responded to Gus's stuff didn't really watch the video and kind of just heard a story where they were like, oh, two people in a couple couldn't agree with if they wanted to have a kid or not, and they had like a bit of an argument, which obviously isn't what happened here, okay? I mean, it's just not what happened here in the slightest, to be honest with you. But either way, Sabrina then goes on to talk about how, like, Gus went on to just kind of live his life, like, however he wanted to, and just kind of didn't really care, to be honest.
Those moments, mind you, I never stopped him from doing anything or going anywhere. He still continued to live his life as if nothing ever happened. And there I am in the background, in the shadows, just trying to pretend that I don't feel like I'm dying. It's really hard.
Yeah, it's a fucking really, really tough watch, this, to be honest. But Sabrina's obviously very, very brave, and just imagine the courage it would have took to actually even make this video in the first place. Like, obviously, I would never understand that, because I would never possibly be in this situation, okay? But yeah, I can only imagine, like, how tough this would have been. Now, after Sabrina released this video, this was on October 22nd, okay? Now, Gus then came out of a video on October 26th, 4 days later, okay? Which is 2 days ago as I'm recording this video. And this is the response he gave this whole situation. I'll read it out now. Okay. I'm aware of a recent video that calls out some actions that I'm not proud of, and I want to apologise. The circumstances were extremely hard and complicated for both of us, but I can't even begin to imagine how difficult it was for her. We were young and not remotely prepared to deal with all the realities of a long-lasting and traumatic medical situation. During the talks, counselling and therapy we went through together following this time, I came to grips with my behaviour and recognised my shortcomings. And I would like her to know just how deeply sorry I am. I fully realise what I did wrong and wish I could change how I responded and acted during that time. I've grown a great deal since that happened, and I wish I knew then what I know now. I will continue to grow and learn and strive to be a better person every day. At this time, I'm stepping away from the podcast and the remainder of this year's live shows and will be cancelled with full refunds being issued. I will also be taking some time off from posting and working for a little while, okay? Now, like I said, the responses to this are actually, like, very positive. I will leave it with you at this point of what you feel like your thoughts are after this situation once you've heard both sides of the story. How do you feel, okay? I think my opinions are pretty obvious throughout this. I just feel like, although I guess nothing like criminal happened, like I guess nothing like illegal happened technically, this is a time where I feel like most normal people would be very supportive of the other person in this situation. If someone is literally going through something that could kill them, and not only that, by the way, is carrying your potential child, okay? Even if you did think you were going to get it aborted, okay? Like, regardless, your girlfriend is pregnant, going through all this stuff, you should be supporting them, okay? And I guess we can leave it at that, and you can let me know your thoughts down below. Hopefully Sabrina does find a bit more peace in actually being able to say this and making it public and just kind of say her piece, okay, and say her story. And thankfully, hopefully, she is okay. And obviously, physically, the possibilities that could have happened a few years ago aren't going to happen, and haven't happened, obviously. So, yeah. Let me know your thoughts down below. We're going to leave it there. Obviously, this was a completely different type of video than what I usually do on here. I just felt like this was the most normal way of doing it. And, yeah, I guess until tomorrow, whenever my next video goes out, I'll see you guys in a bit. And obviously, social medias and everything in the description. New video on the Offbeat channel, it's also in the description, okay? That's getting uploaded at the same time as this. And, yeah, I guess until the next one, I will see you guys in a bit. All right, goodbye.